Hello, hello. Happy Wellness Wednesday. My name is Dr. Patricia Ford, and I'm here to talk about food and health and body and business and beauty and all of these things. And so I have a practice in Redlands where it is called Imagine Wellness, and I work with people individually or group or with your insurance to work on goals with your body, goals with your business, or goals with your beauty. And I like to say it's in these three pillars of mind, body, and beauty. So today I'm going to talk about the concept of coping with food. And so if you're watching the replay, I want you to put a little emoji that says hand up if you have ever coped with food. So we're going to define a few things. What is coping with food? What does that even mean? Cope is usually a behavior that's done in reaction. Okay, so it's typically a behavior. So it's not a feeling, it's not a state of mind. Coping is typically a behavior that you do. So in this instance, we're talking about eating food. In reaction to, when you cope, it's typically in reaction to something. And our brain works a certain way. When we're making decisions, we make decisions in one of two ways. We're either trying to avoid pain. I don't want to experience that. I'm avoiding that. Like we pull away if we're going to get a shot, okay? Or we don't engage in that conversation because that person is painful for me. Or we engage in pleasure. I'm going to drink this drink because it makes me feel good. I am going to be doing things that engage in pleasure, that make me feel good. I'm going to hang around this person because their energy makes me feel good. Okay, so one of two things: avoiding pain, engaging in pleasure. So when we cope, it's typically in reaction to that. Are you avoiding pain or engaging in pleasure? And that's very dichotomous, meaning that's very black or white. It's either or. And that's typically not how the world works. Typically the world is very gray and there's lots of colors. But the brain, scientifically, can work in one of these two ways. So are you coping with food? Meaning, are you engaging in food to attract pleasure? Or are you engaging in food to avoid pain? So typically in my space, there are people that will use food, cope with food. A coping mechanism is to eat, especially in our society where we have access to food all of the time. We have fridge and pantries full of food that we have access at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., or I could list 10 restaurants in my town that are open 24/7. Okay, I don't even have to get in my car. I can just drive up. I can use my phone to pay. I mean, it's wild, the accessibility that we have. Or better yet, I literally don't have to leave my house. I can order food at 2 a.m. and get it to my doorstep. It's wild. So our access to food is increased. I wouldn't know the stat on that, 100-fold. So we cope with it. It's not illegal. It's not really frowned upon. You can eat anytime you want. And you can hide in plain sight by doing it. No one has to know the internal dialogue that you're going through. You might not even know. And so you can just eat. It's really easy to cope with food. Why are you doing it? It can be pain, physical pain, emotional pain. So pain can be physical. Your back hurts, your knees hurt, your body aches, headache, right? You can have physical pain. Or you can have emotional pain, grief, which I'm experiencing, boredom. Boredom can be really painful for some people. sadness, disgust, fear, all these emotions that do cause some pain or discomfort or distress. If you eat, biologically you think, oh, that feels better, and you do get a dopamine response in the pleasure center of your brain. I'm writing a book right now with a co-author where we're going over a really, really cool concept of the brain and how we can kind of learn about the brain and how its reactions to food and how you have reactions to food. And there is this, when you're avoiding pain or going into pleasure, and when you eat, you think, oh, this feels so good. Oh, this feels so good. You're literally getting a neurotransmitter that supports that. And so whether you're seeking pleasure or avoiding pain, food feels good typically in a neurotypical brain. If there's neurodiversity or disease, food might not feel that great. So if you're coping with food, there can be detrimental effects. If you're coping with food all of the time, you're overeating excessive nutrients consistently over time, it can lead to detrimental biophysical effects. Whether you see that in your heart, whether you see that in blood pressure, whether you see that in body weight, whether you see that in blood sugar. It could go the opposite way too. You could cope with food and restrict and not eat. And then that can lead to fatigue, anemia, weight loss, where it's causing distress. So it could go both ways. So the reason why food becomes such an easy way to cope, again, you're hiding in plain sight, and it's so easy to do. We have so much to access all of the time. If you're in diet culture, restricting food is actually praised. Oh, good job. You have such good willpower. Good for you for saying no. I know a new thing on TikTok right now is lettuce chips, which is being praised because you think, oh, good for you. You're eating fruits and vegetables. You're avoiding the packaged foods. It's actually good to restrict the junk. It's actually being praised. And you're going to see that in so many other different ways, shapes, or forms. Food becomes such a common denominator with behavior. The distressful part is when it causes harm. When it causes harm and then you feel emotionally guilty, you feel emotionally shame, you feel like you need to hide even more, and it becomes this vicious cycle where the thing that made you feel good, the food, is actually now making you feel worse. And it's really hard to break. So what happens is people will hop on these really strict plans and have discipline and willpower and just stick to it and only eat a certain amount of calories, like 1,000 calories, and only do da 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 da. But what happens when the emotional pain or physical pain comes back and your coping mechanism is gone? That causes more physical pain, literally. That causes more emotional pain, literally. And then you're in the dumps. You have no idea what to do, but you've lost this temporary weight or gained the temporary weight that you've been wanting to gain, and everyone's praising you based upon how you look. Now it's super confusing. Now I'm getting praised for doing something that's actually really painful. Okay, I need to keep up with the painful thing in order to get the praise, because the praise feels really good, because humans love connection. And round and round and round and round and round we go. And it's painful. So what I do is we go a layer deeper. And we say, okay, coping with food is actually this black or white decision. What if we think about a mindful approach, which is a whole other concept? What if we can be mindful about our decisions, which you could get a terminal degree in mindfulness. That means that there's no rules with food. We throw the good or bad out the window. Doritos are as equal as quinoa. And you really ask yourself what's happening for you. What's happening for you? What's your emotional state? What's your hunger state? and how can you respond appropriately? This requires a ton of presence and patience and slowing down, which again, in our society is hard. I'm literally talking to my phone in my house, and 25 people may watch this that I have not interacted with, and they'll watch it in their own time. How beautiful that is, but this is instant. If I was in a different culture, I would have to wait to have everybody together and speak to everybody in person, and there would be lots of time in between. But in our culture, we have the luxury and also the villainous ability to connect instantaneously. That is not helping our mindfulness. Our mindfulness requires slow, patient processing. And even in pain, being mindful is not using food. What would that look like for you? To withstand the emotional or physical pain and sit in it. Not for too long. I'm not asking you to be in pain, but ask yourself, okay, I'm actually feeling grief. What is it like to actually experience it and feel it and not try to get rid of it? What would it be like to actually experience hunger just for a brief moment and sit in it and feel it and experience what it's like? Maybe try to come up with language to describe it. Practice the pause. Practice the how can I be mindfulness in my pain? How can I be mindful in my pain? How can I be mindful in my hunger? And what does it feel like? So you can figure out the frontal cortex to identify how you feel. Nick, sorry. So this is the type of work that I get to do with clients where we can come up with the transactional plans. We can, and they're important. But underneath of it is actually figuring out who you are and what you need. And then the plan is easy because you'll know what you need. You'll find your intuition again, and you won't need me ever again. That's the point. But everybody needs someone in their life to actually see them, to actually see your story, to actually understand what's going on. And that's one of my favorite things to do with humans. I love people. I love their stories. Stop! Come on. I love their stories. I love what's happening for them. And I want to get to know your story. I want to get to know you. If this is interesting to you, I have a quick 10-minute free, there's no questions, online. You can do it in your underwear, of how your brain works. And then I sit and talk with you, and we go over what I have to offer you, if that is something that of interest to you, and how you want to move your business, body, or beauty forward. So I just got back from a conference with my beauty company. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I love seeing the women that I work with. We were all very tired Monday, but we're all back and kind of back into the real world. So if you have any questions about the makeup, if you have any questions about your brain or your body, please let me know, and I will talk with you then. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.